Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of The Mannschrecks.
It's a commentary on Christian life and culture from a pastor's wife and her sidekick.
That's me.
I'm your favorite host, Sara Mannschreck.
And I'm that other one, JJ Mannschreck. And we are back for more. And we're joined by our co-host, Asher. It's like he knew. That was great.
Yes. The
So he's just munching on his little snack, refused to go to bed. Not interested at all in going to bed. But I have some really fun stories, and then we're going to get to a movie review later. So, are you ready?
Sure. You can go. You go first this time.
All right. So, mysterious 19th century vampire slaying kit sells for $15,000 at an auction.
What? Okay, explain.
19th century vampire slaying kit. So
Okay.
it's a box. It's like an antique that went on sale at an auction. I know, it's a crazy story. It's an antique that went on sale at an auction, and it's just full of all kinds of like vampire killing stuff from the 1800s when they actually thought this stuff was real. All right, so this is on New York Post, nypost.com. A vampire slaying kit from the 19th century sold at an auction for $15,517.
Wow.
It was sold in the UK, and it was originally estimated to be worth like $2,000 to $3,000. It went for 5 times what they were expecting.
Okay.
Inside the kit are crucifixes, a pair of matching pistols, a brass powder flask, holy water, a Gothic Bible, a wooden mallet, and a stake, brass candlesticks, which I don't know what the brass candlesticks are for, rosary beads, and police paperwork from that time, according to the press release from the auctioneers.
Wow.
Just like...
So everything you ever need to slay a vampire.
Truly, though, it's like the kit originally belonged to a man named Lord William Malcolm Haley, a former administrator of British India, according to Charles Hanson, the owner of Hanson Auctioneers. Whether through fear or fascination, it's interesting to know a member of the highest aristocratic social order, a man with a place in the House of the Lords, had acquired this item. It reminds us that the vampire myth affects people from all walks of life. So this guy was like a big deal in the British whatever. He was a high aristocrat, a member of the House of Lords, and he had this vampire hunting...
You've been watching a lot of Disney movies lately.
Honestly, I think of it as Aristocat.
Aristocrat.
And not aristocrat.
That's so interesting, though, that this man...
It's fascinating. I know. Belief in vampires, an undead creature said to need human blood to survive. Yes, thank you, article, because we all didn't know what vampires were. It goes back hundreds of years and persists in some part of the world today. They are enshrined in European folklore. The task of killing a vampire is extremely serious, and historical accounts suggest the need for particular methods and tools. Items of religious significance, such as crucifixes and Bibles, were said to repel these monsters, hence their presence in the toolkit.
That is interesting.
Well, and it's funny because they don't know whether this aristocrat bought it for fun, like, oh, isn't it fun to have this, or if he like actually thought he needed to defend himself.
Like if it was like a kooky item that you're like, oh,
is it like
crazy,
the goofy bomb shelter out back that you build for fun, or is it like, no, he actually thought the world was going to end and he was going to fight vampires?
That is hilarious.
But yeah, sold way more than
$15,000.
Yeah, for a little box full of odds and ends. And I mean, it's a pretty cool box. Don't get me wrong. It's got like pistols and a crucifix and a Bible from that time period. I mean, there's some cool stuff in there. Lord William Malcolm Haley.
Interesting.
Possibly ancient vampire slayer.
William Haley, vampire slayer.
William Haley. That's the sequel that's coming.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
All right, give it to me.
All right, so I think this was Massachusetts, a woman charged with sending bee swarm on deputies
I was
eviction.
waiting
Did you
for
read
this
that?
moment to happen. That is my second story.
Is it really?
No joke. I have the exact same
sorry.
story. No, I love the story. Let's tell it to the listeners because I'm sure they don't peruse.
So, a woman who released a swarm of bees on sheriff's deputies as they tried to serve an eviction notice is facing multiple assault and battery charges. So this woman pleaded not guilty at her arraignment in Springfield District Court. She and other protesters maintained that they were trying to prevent a wrongful eviction. The homeowner brought the evidence of bankruptcy to the court and pointed everything should have stopped, all this stuff. And so when she realized that they were being evicted, she let out a swarm of bees on the officers and donned herself in a beekeeping suit to not... It says, she arrived in the SUV towing a trailer carrying beehives and started shaking them, breaking the cover and causing the bees to swarm out, stinging one deputy. Then she put on a beekeeper suit and who had put on a beekeeper suit, and she was handcuffed, and all of these officers started getting stung. 3 of them had to go to the hospital because they were allergic to bee stings.
Yep. Just amazing.
I was like, what? This sounds like some sort of crazy...
She used a swarm of bees as a dangerous weapon. That's what the accusation is. You used bees as a dangerous weapon.
If it had gotten further, she would have been in trouble with even more serious charges.
Man, the incident unfolded when Rory Woods, a 55-year-old professional beekeeper, drove to the home in Longmeadow while deputies were in the process of enforcing the eviction, the sheriff's department said in a statement on Wednesday. The residence outside Springfield in the south-central part of the state belonged to a man who had been litigating against his removal for years. So like you said, there's anti-eviction activists who are helping him out because he felt he shouldn't be getting evicted. So this woman, she was an anti-eviction activist. And she arrived at 9:15 p.m. local time, towing a stack of manufactured beehives in an SUV.
I'm like, what? Like, I'm going to go and save this guy, and I'm going to show him how, I'm going to show everybody by letting off a swarm of bees.
Yep.
That's like a Dwight Schrute level story there. Like,
it is.
I'll get my apiarist to extract the queen bee venom, and like, what?
That's a nerdy reference right there.
I'm sorry.
That was good. I liked it.
But, I mean, it was. Like, I saw the article, and I was like, this is really bizarre.
When it says, Woods, who lives in Hadley, Massachusetts, about 25 miles north of Longmeadow, faces 4 felony counts of assault and battery by means of a dangerous weapon, and 3 counts of assault by means of a dangerous weapon. Okay. Yep. She also faces the misdemeanor disorderly conduct charge. I swear, the picture from the article that I'm reading, I don't know, I think we have different articles.
Yes, we do.
But she looks so smug. Like, she's just kind of like, yeah, that's right, I did it. I dropped bees on a bunch of police officers.
Yeah, the picture I have in my article is just her in the beekeeper's suit while they're escorting her out.
Arrested in a beekeeper suit. I mean, it's definitely clever, right? It has kind of a Home Alone vibe.
It does. Like, I'm going to release the bees and the bad guys.
And the bad guys. Which are lawful police officers trying to do
law enforcement officers just doing their job.
Yeah. Well, it's like, they're not the ones who are evicting whoever. They're just enforcement, right?
Yep.
Oh, Go drop a bee on whoever's doing the evicting, right? The landlord or whatever. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Anti-eviction activists, which is totally a thing.
Oh, yeah.
There are people who get wrongly evicted all the time. It can be really ugly. It's, at the church, I know. Over at the church, I mean, we try to help people avoid eviction all the time. We're always helping people with, like, rent, consumers' bills. We have a whole fund to set up to help people. But we don't drop bees
off it,
I can't believe it finally happened. Because you and I, every week, we come together with stories. I usually grab a couple, you grab a couple. Sometimes I don't always have 2, but...
Honestly, didn't even cross my mind that you might have the same story as me.
I just thought this story was so... amazing.
That's funny.
A woman using bees as an anti-eviction advocate.
It's very obscure. All right, so my second story today is the Pennsylvania Parks officials released a curious statement about Bigfoot warnings. So apparently, officials in Pennsylvania say they don't know who's posting signs warning of Bigfoot activity in the area, but it's not them. That someone has been walking around posting on trees and important signs with official logo and like very serious looking information from the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources that they need to be aware of to observe elevated park etiquette, be cautious of surroundings, and keep to the location of any small children or pets within a tighter scope of awareness. Do not approach the creature. The signs have been added in many parks and have been turning up for months. However, the Parks Department has been removing them when they see them. Visitors have been posting them all over social media and has been drawing a huge response, upsetting the Conservation Department, which had to post on their official Twitter, there's no legitimacy to this. The rangers are aware and they're they're removing them, investigating the situation. They were not posted or authorized by the DCNR, and it's using their logo unlawfully. It's just, and then they say Bigfoot is not real, but people don't know if they're believing that. They say that they're still searching for the Sasquatch in the park, and it's apparently a very popular pastime for people to go out to the parks and search for Bigfoot. But whoever's posting the signs is upsetting the Department of Conservation and Parks and Recreation. So they're just putting all these signs up saying, watch out for Bigfoot and keep close your kids and pets.
But they're saying, no, it's not us. We didn't post those.
Right. But someone is still being very vigilant and posting these signs everywhere. And people are seeing them and sharing them all the time on social media because...
Well, and all the stuff on the article, like the signs sound like they're quite lovely. You know, like the things that they are posting on there. It's like, that's not a bad thing to say.
Yeah, literally it says, it has the logo at the top, Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources warning. Due to encounters in the area of a creature resembling, quote, Bigfoot, we are instructing all park visitors to observe elevated park etiquette, be cautious of your surroundings, and keep to the location of any small children or pets within a tighter scope of awareness. Do not approach the creature. Report any sightings to a ranger front office or the DCNR office or missing persons. And do not post sightings on social media. And then they have that same warning in Spanish in a paragraph below. So it looks like some sort of official posting.
Document.
Like they have it in a couple of different languages. It's very simple. It's not like it's all crazy font. Like it looks like something that the Department of Conservation would post on a tree, and it's like using their logo, and then people are saying, is this real? Have you posted this? And they're like, don't believe it. We are tearing down these signs when we see them. They're not us.
See, but I think like it's not like the sign is asking anyone to do something bad. You know, the sign is basically saying, hey, you know, be nice to this creature if there's a creature. Like if you replace the Bigfoot part of it with any other actual animal that they would have come across, that's all very good advice. Oh, yeah. You know, like I think this is a really fun prank. I think that's a harmless prank, and I think it's hilarious. And the fact that they responded probably really just drew more attention to it. You know, it's like no, that's pretty solid. I like that a lot. That's Bigfoot.
Apparently, searching for Sasquatch is a big pastime in parks around the nation. It says in Oklahoma, lawmakers proposed a Bigfoot hunting season with a cash prize, not to kill the creature, but just to find evidence of it. So apparently, a majority of Bigfoot sightings take place in the Pacific Northwest and California, but Pennsylvania has had its share of Sasquatch activity over the years. Over 124 people have reported credible sightings there. Someone claims to have seen 2.
Was there quote-unquote around credible?
Yeah.
Because, what?
Yeah, right. Heard some of them whistling near his cabin in Harrison Valley.
Oh, Bigfoot whistles? That's new.
And what were you drinking prior to the occurrence of these whistling situations?
That's not part of the folklore. What was that one story we did like months ago with the guys who got like super...
Oh my gosh, drugs. And he killed his friend.
Yeah, and then he like, you're using Bigfoot to summon demons or something, and then he like attacked his buddy.
I forgot about that. That was a weird story.
Drugs are bad, kids.
Right, drugs are real bad.
Drugs are so bad.
Oh my gosh.
Line from Super 8.
Seriously though, like I just can't.
I love it. Bigfoot signs.
Super bizarre.
That's amazing though.
Anyways.
All right, are you ready for your sponsors of your life?
Yes.
For those who don't know, the way Sponsor of Our Life works is we are this tiny little podcast. We have a great time. We love making this podcast, but we don't get any help. And that's why the audio sounds like it does. Because it's a low production amateur thing done by me. But because we don't have any sponsors or anything like that, there's a lot of products and services and wonderful things in our life that we just want to pump up and celebrate. And so every week we come up with something to say, hey, this is awesome and you should go test it out. And so we call it Sponsor of Our Life. So, sponsoring your life today.
So I guess I have to say, I don't know about today, but this week and actually next week too, our sweet remaining dog Raven.
Oh, she's sponsoring your life?
Yeah, she's sponsoring my life. Mostly, well, I was going to say the vet that we have. Shout out to our vet because they've been pretty good.
West Flint Animal Hospital.
Yep, they they've been taking care of our dogs. That was where we had to put Daisy down last month. But this month, Raven had a good appointment after a little bit of a scare. We couldn't figure out what's going on with her.
She wasn't doing so hot.
She's having
surgery.
the surgery this week, so we were able to get her in and get that taken care of. And so I feel like that's going to be Sponsor of My Life this week, just as we deal with her recovery and, get some more years out of her still. So that's kind of Sponsor of My Life this week.
For sure. All right, so Sponsor of My Life this week is Frankenmuth. Specifically, I'm going to give a shout out to the Cheese House. Is that what it's called? The Cheese House?
The Frankenmuth Cheese House, yeah.
We went downtown, so we had an unexpected day off. We had some plans that fell through. People couldn't hang out, and so we just took the boys and we drove up to Frankenmuth. It's like 20 minutes away from us. If you don't know, it's this little Bavarian village in Michigan, and it's super cute. It has Bronner's, which is the world's biggest Christmas store. It's like everything Christmas all year round. And so that was fun. We took the boys in there, took a bunch of pictures. Then you walk around downtown. There's shops and all kinds of cool stuff. And then there's the Cheese House, which is this giant place where they have dozens of different types of cheese. We bought a bunch of it. There was cheddar with bacon inside of it, and then there's spicy cheeses and sweet cheeses and pickled cheeses and all kinds of goofy stuff. And then there's all these meats and stuff that you can pair it with. It just made for a really awesome day. We took the boys out.
It was nice.
It was so much fun. Then we came back and ate too much cheese and meat, had a little charcuterie board, and that was just the trip to Frankenmuth, specifically the Cheese House, was absolutely a sponsor of my life this week. It was so much fun. And if you're ever in Michigan and you can make your way down to Frankenmuth, it's just this quaint little village, super fun. And be careful though, you could drop some big money because there's so many fun shops and there's so much delicious food, and you're like, whoa. And yeah, it was awesome. So that was a good thing.
It was a fun little unexpected kind of family day.
Yeah, we were like, what do we want to do with our day now? Because we suddenly had for a whole day. We were supposed to go somewhere else, and it was like, well, what do we want to do now? We could sit around and do nothing, or we could go to Frankenmuth, and it was awesome.
Worth it.
All right, it is time for another segment of Mannschrecks at the Movies. Now, we've only done this segment once before, where we talk about a recent movie that we've seen. Mm-hmm. We're not usually up to date with the most recent movie.
Not usually. We are never up to date. I am never a front runner in...
We have little kids. It's hard.
Movies and music and
the last one we watched was
pop
The
culture.
Eyes of Tammy Faye.
Yeah.
That's not the last movie we watched, to clarify. It's the last, recent release movie that
people might be talking about.
Yeah, that we talked about on the podcast, because actually it was really fascinating. Today's movie is much less cultural, religious in its dynamic. It's just a fun movie that we happened to see recently. Today we're going to be talking about Top Gun Maverick.
We finally got around to seeing that
movie.
We
did. People talked about it. They told us go see it in theaters, and we went and saw something else instead.
We did.
But that was cool. But finally we got around to Top Gun Maverick. Now a little backstory. Tom Cruise is one of my favorite actors. I watch almost everything he makes. I love all the Mission Impossibles, and he hasn't made any other movies, has he?
I don't know. I don't watch Tom Cruise movies.
No, he does.
He's not my favorite actor.
Oh man, he does. I mean, he has done so many movies. I was making a joke there. Obviously, he's done the Mission Impossibles, but also he did Night and Day, which was basically another Mission Impossible movie. He was way back in the day. He was in Risky Business. Mm-hmm. He was in the original Top Gun. He was in a bajillion other things.
That's true.
Yeah, so I love a good Tom Cruise movie. So we finally got around to it. And so what did you think? What did you think of Top Gun Maverick?
It was pretty good. It was very they really leaned heavily into the first one. There was a lot of that.
The first 10 minutes literally could have been scenes.
We had to check 3 times to see if we had accidentally clicked that we were watching the first movie. I'm like, this feels too. What?
It's exactly
what
like
is happening? And
they
I
used
was
the same type of music, almost the same exact songs.
I thought
the same shots.
I was just
Well, it was heavy on the nostalgia, but in a really good way that really didn't feel it didn't feel like they were just copying or remaking the old movie.
Oh no!
But it definitely had a very similar vibe, identical in its tone, and that was so much fun. Well, and I really think it did really well. This movie made over $1 billion, 1.4 billion in the box office last I checked. I mean, people are talking about Oscar possible nominations and stuff. I mean, it's just a massive movie from this past year. And I think one of the reasons is it drew us back to, even though it was set in the modern time, like it just, the style of film drew you back to the original. Came out, that was the 80s movies, right?
Yeah, 86,
the original
right?
Top Gun, right? And it was a less polarized time. Even then it was starting to polarize, like politically and all around the world, but there's just something about like friendly competition inside the best of the best. Everyone's technically on the same team, but we're competing, and it was a real good feel good.
Yeah,
you know?
That's true.
Fun, engaging, action packed. Not, I don't know, it just wasn't like starchy or didn't feel like an old movie.
Oh yeah.
And yet it still like pulled us back to that time that just made you happy. Okay, so I have a couple things that I thought were just really like standout moments and really good pieces that I just wanted to talk about. The first was, it's just a thing that they had at the beginning of the movie, which is something they really didn't use it much. So that in the very beginning of the movie, there's this conflict of manned pilots versus UAVs, right? Not unidentified. What is it? Unarmed manned vehicles? Unmanned aerial vehicles. That's what it is. Unmanned aerial vehicles. But the unmanned aerial vehicles is like the new front of warfare nowadays. We just use drones for everything. And we drop bombs from really far away, and we don't use pilots. There are pilots flying them like on computers, but there's no human risk anymore. And personally, I don't know, like, I love the idea of not putting pilots in harm's way.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that removes us from the devastation we're causing.
Yep.
And I think unmanned stuff is just a bad idea in the military. I think that when you are dropping bombs on countries and killing people and destroying things, you should have a human element to it. And if you pull out your human element, it's literally just going to be...
like a video game.
Well, and it's like the wealthy countries who can afford the unmanned stuff...
Yep.
bombing the poor countries, and that it just really worries me as far as like so they just touched on it just a little bit at the beginning,
I caught
and then
that.
the rest of the movie was all manned unmanned combat. But at the very beginning they were like, we're gonna pull funding for this program and give it to the unmanned aerial program, and he was like, not today, and then he went Mach 10 or something in a plane. That was so much fun. Crazy. Speaking of Mach 10, so there were a couple of things. So we found out, and I didn't know this, Mach is how many times the speed of sound are you going, right? Mach 10 is 10 times the speed of sound. So the drone piloting thing, I just think that was an interesting thing. They touched on it, but that was not going to be the thrust of the movie.
Right.
Second thing I want to talk about is Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
Val Kilmer showed up. Talk about his performance.
It was interesting. I was trying to... At first, I was very confused. I was like, why is he only ever texting Val Kilmer? Like, why aren't we ever seeing him?
Yeah, yep.
And I thought that was very strange. And then when he, like, showed up at the house, I was like, oh. And then the fact that, like, they used that to play into his, like, real-life health issues.
So to
and how
give some
that,
context, Val Kilmer, the actor, has recently... it was cancer, right? He had throat cancer or something, and he has surgery, and so he is basically unable.
He's on a feeding tube.
Yeah,
he
like he can't. He's on a feeding tube. He's not actually. The actor is unable to.
He often wears scarves, I guess.
Yeah, and so he wears scarves in his roles. We looked that up like during the movie while we were watching, and we were like, oh my gosh, wow, it's actually real, because they put that into his character, which I thought that was amazing. I think that was very like inclusive of them, and it's just really cool to see them working around an actor's situation, because he can't talk, but they made it work. And
they like, what did they use, like AI to fill in, because he has a really hard time talking because his voice is hoarse, and so they like kind of compiled the...
And they had the character, he has cancer or whatever, and he can't really talk very much, and so I mean I thought it was a powerful scene, well done to bring him in and to keep the actors real life and just write that into the character. That was really cool.
That was pretty cool for sure.
The other thing that just struck me is like these two men, and I don't know how far apart they are in age, but he's not that much older than Tom Cruise, and they look completely different. Tom Cruise looks like he's aged like maybe 5 years between the movies, and it's supposed to be 30 years. They are 30 years apart, and yet Val Kilmer looks like he has aged gracefully into a silver fox older gentleman, and Tom Cruise looks 30. Like, it's just ridiculous.
It is.
Oh, I don't know what Tom Cruise's skincare routine is and what he's using to dye his hair. But they were hugging, and I'm looking at this moment like, those men are the same age.
It looks like his grandpa.
Just like, what is happening right now?
It really did.
That stuck out to me as a crazy moment. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to mention, that was the stuff I came up with as like pieces to talk about, was the conversation about the physical toll on the bodies of the pilots. Holy smokes. Like, that was a major part of the plot, was that, hey, we're going to fly this plane and we're going to do this stunt, and it's super insane, and it's going to put you under so many G's, which is like force of the gravitational pull on your body. And you get like 5 G's, and that's like your it's 5 times as much gravity as it currently has. And so you weigh a lot more, and if you get up to crazy levels, you can actually pass out. And so it was a piece of the movie that I was like, what can the human body actually withstand?
Yeah.
You know? It was really fascinating. I looked it up. So apparently, like, a regular airplane ride, you experience between like 0.7 and 1.2 G's.
Okay.
Like, just a normal airplane going up and coming down, you get a little heavier on the takeoff, you get a little lighter when you're landing.
Right.
That's normal G's on a commercial airline. I think like in roller coasters and in normal stuff, you can get between 2 and 5 G's, and there's no real impact on the human body. Anything above 5, you actually need special training so that you don't pass out, like so that you can survive. Right. But what I thought was interesting, because I actually did some reading, I actually like researched it and stuff, and it's not the really fast fighter jets that experience the highest G's. Fighter jets normally just go straight, right?
Okay.
It's the stunt planes that go much slower, but they do loop-de-loops and stuff. That gives you much higher G's. You can get up to 10 or even 12 G's. And sometimes pilots they pass out momentarily. There's like a small loss of consciousness for a little while.
Wow.
But it's not the ones that are going 2,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's the ones that are going like 200 or 300 miles an hour,
right?
Like stunt planes.
Wow, that's interesting. I guess that makes absolute sense, but that's not how it's portrayed. And
well, they kind of pick the middle ground, right? You got the super fast jets, and then you've got the stunt fighter pilots, and they kind of hit the middle ground of, no, these are jets, these are really fast, they're F-18s, but they're gonna do stunts in them anyways. And true. So you get both. You get really high G's in a really fast plane. Makes for a very exciting movie.
Oh yes.
I could talk also about Miles Teller, the actor who plays Rooster, who's Goose's son, keeping on the family tradition of call signs of birds. Miles Teller, he has grown up as an actor. I think he did a good job with this role.
Not super familiar with him.
Oh, he was just that guy he was in the Divergent movies, and he did a lot of teen drama type movies.
So totally my type of movie. I would totally know who this person is.
Why do I know this?
It's true.
But no, it was nice. I really feel like he grew up as an actor a little bit. It was cool to see him in another role where he's just, I don't know, he's also just a bigger guy, and he's filled out, and it's like, oh, you're like an adult now, Before he was kind of this scraggly, scrawny kind of guy.
Oh, okay.
Not that I watched very many of those movies. I just saw him in the
I don't know. It's pretty damning, the evidence that you portray that you're giving us here.
How about you? Any other insights or thoughts on Maverick, Top Gun?
I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty concise as far as what I was talking about when we were watching it. Because I had a lot of questions about what is the physical toll of a lot of the stuff that they do? How does it affect their body? And what are the long-term repercussions of it? Once they're unable to pilot, their stuff anymore, what do they do? How does it affect them? Does their body, see after effects or whatever? But no, those are all pretty much the things that I would have touched on. It's interesting. So
would you, if it was Rotten Tomatoes, 100% is the greatest movie ever, what would you give it percentage-wise?
I mean, as someone who does not generally tend to gravitate toward the most popular movies and even action films.
At all. It was kind of an odd movie for you to watch.
A lot. I mean, obviously the nostalgia of the 80s, original is there, and I do tend to gravitate more towards movies of that nature. And I mean, Top Gun's just a classic, but I'd say I'd give it like a solid 75-80%.
75-80%?
Yeah.
That's fit.
Yeah.
That's fair. And I'd probably give it 85-90% just because I love that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
though.
Oh, yeah.
Action films and like, you know, adrenaline and super fun, and I enjoyed it all around. It was really fun. Blast from the past. I was shocked to see that the actual Rotten Tomato score is in the high 90s. I mean, it's like 96 or something like that.
Is that the like Rotten Tomato score or like the fan score? Because you know how there's like the different.
So it's 96% tomato meter and 99% audience score. So the critics gave it 96, but the audience gave it 99. So it's that. I mean, really, really high
that is
scores. High. I guess I didn't think it was. That, I mean, it was really fun, but I wouldn't have given it a 99.
That's interesting. But yeah, I could see that as a crowd favorite.
I will say that there's a nice, like, twist at the end. It's not a twist, but it's just not what I was necessarily expecting. I was like, it's going to come down to this. It's like this moment, and this is what's going to happen. And I thought I had it plotted, and then they threw
I was wrong. I was like, man, okay.
Yep. And we're trying not to give spoilers, you know, but I just was like... I thought one thing was going to be the big moment, and then they did that, and then another thing on top of that, and I enjoyed that a lot. Yeah, that was fun. So, Tom Cruise rules the screen once again in Top Gun Maverick. A lot of fun. And yeah, there's lots of interesting stuff to talk about in it. I know! Mannschrecks At The Movies is coming to a close because our baby's time limit is coming to All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in for another episode of The Mannschrecks. It's so much fun to make these. We hope you guys appreciate them. If you do appreciate them, go ahead, hit like, subscribe on Spotify. Give us those 5 stars. We'd love to see more reviews. Over on the Apple reviews, you can actually type out a review of us, and we just love to hear from people about what they like about the show, what we can do to improve. And I think that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, thanks so much to Music Town for the use of our theme song. Don't forget to check us out on all the social media, the Twitter, Facebook, you know, Instagram, all those good things.
All that jazz. All right, you ready to send us out with the mom joke of the week?
Yeah, I think so. What's blue and not very heavy?
What? I don't know.
Light blue. Here, I'll give you a 2 for tonight. What did Yoda say when he saw himself in 4K?
I don't know.
HDMI. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in tonight, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Take care. See you next time.